Good morning. Welcome everyone to this week's online training session. My name is Sophia. I'm calling you here from Melbourne, and today we're going to be going over a very wide overview of European high-speed trains. So just a reminder again, thank you everyone for joining today's session. Some just quick start pointers before we begin. This session is being recorded, and the recording links will be available in the training library section of MyRail Europe. And furthermore, I will also be uploading this presentation that I'm going through with you guys today in the training library on MyRail Europe as well. So just in case you would like to have an additional copy of it, you can download it as easily as possible from there too. Any questions that you may have, please feel free to enter them in the chat box. More than happy to answer them during the training session as we go along. But if it does require any additional information that's a little bit more specific, I will go through this as per usual in a Q&A session at the end of the training program. So again, we'll get started. Feel free to ask questions along the way, and if you can kindly also just put all of your microphones just on mute for now, just so that we don't get any background noise during the training session. That would be fantastic. Okay, thank you so much everyone, and let us begin. So today we're going to be going through European high-speed trains, and our agenda today really is to, at the end of the session, we'll have a greater understanding of the most important features of our most popular high-speed rail services. We aren't going to go through every single one of them in the most minute detail. It's mainly a product overview of all of the high-speed trains, and we aren't going to be doing any booking or processing in Euronet at all. However, it is a good way to get an understanding and a refresher on most of the European high-speed trains that we do book and what are the most important features of them as well. So just a couple of things to take into account, some terminology before we begin. Now, a booking horizon, this is the window of time a train can be booked prior to its scheduled departure date. The reason why we do have to stress on the meaning of the booking horizon is particularly with different European high-speed trains, different trains have different booking horizons. Some can only be booked 90 days in advance, some can only be booked 60 days in advance, but then others can also be booked even up to 6 months in advance. And I'll go through those individually as we continue through the training session, and that way it's just another description to understand that each train is going to be quite different in its features and also its regulations as well. Another thing to note too is we have pass holder fares, which are discounted tickets for passengers who hold a rail pass. This includes your confirmed seat on the train. And then of course you also have your seat reservations. So what your seat reservation is an additional cost for rail pass holders in order to confirm a seat on board the train. Both of these things, pass holder fares and seat reservations, effectively function in the same way. However, just a little side note that the terms pass holder fare and seat reservation are almost interchangeable, but bear in mind that they're not exactly the same. And this varies depending on the type of train that you're booking as well. I won't go through that all too much, but it's just something to take note of during the training session. But most importantly, bear in mind the booking horizon for each train, because that defines when it is possible for you and your customers to proceed with booking these at the time as well. So let's start with the most popular train, the most popular and most well-known high-speed train, and we're looking specifically at the Eurostar. So some facts about the Eurostar is that it runs between 3 of Europe's most exciting countries, England, France, and Belgium. And it is, of course, certainly a high-speed train because it operates at 300 kilometers an hour. For example, a route that it travels to would be from London through to Paris, which only takes about 2 hours and 15 minutes to travel on. It is the #1 choice for travel between the heart of London and the heart of Paris or Brussels. It's, of course, the best alternative for your customers to book rather than flying across these 2 destinations, particularly because of its efficiency, its speed, and how convenient it is to get from city centre to city centre when you're traveling on the Eurostar. Speaking of booking horizons, the Eurostar can also be booked 180 days in advance. It has a very generous booking horizon, so therefore if you're looking to book a Eurostar in 6 months' time, you can certainly do that through Euronet and also on the Rail Europe websites as well. A little bit more about the Eurostar. The Eurostar does also operate some seasonal routes, so from London through to Avignon and Avignon to Moutier. And furthermore, the Eurostar also has multiple ticketing options available. So you can book Eurostar tickets as E2 paper, PAH and TOD, but more recently now, the Eurostar can now pretty much only be booked as PAH as the main method of ticketing. But I'll just zoom into the map and the route that the Eurostar does operate. So it operates from London through to Paris, but also through to Brussels, and in its seasonal routes, London to Avignon and other destinations within France as well. Something that I will go through in a little bit more detail as well is the new and exciting route to now travel and possibility to travel from London through to Amsterdam. So those are just some little details on the routes that the Eurostar travels. So let's take a look at the different classes of service that the Eurostar offers as well. So the Eurostar offers 3 different classes of service. I'll go through them one by one, but I'm starting from the lowest class of service available on the Eurostar, being standard class. Standard class is equivalent to second class on European trains, and it is the most economic choice for your customers, particularly because it offers comfort, convenience, and also value for money too. Bear in mind that when you're traveling in standard class, there are no meals included with your ticket, but there are a variety of food and drinks available for purchase from the buffet car. So just to reiterate, meals are not included with this ticket, but passengers can purchase them on board the train. It does offer seamless city-to-city centre travel, and check-in for the Eurostar is until 30 minutes prior to departure. Moving on now, we have Standard Premier class. Standard Premier is considered as first class on board the Eurostar. What it does offer in comparison to Standard class is that it offers spacious and very comfortable reclining seats with generous legroom. Unlike Standard class, Standard Premier class offers complimentary light meals and beverages served at your seat. So meals are included with this ticket. In addition, there are also complimentary newspapers and magazines, and also some semi-flexible ticket options available too for you to choose and offer to your customers too. For Standard Premier, check-in is until 30 minutes prior to departure. And then finally, we have the highest class of service on the Eurostar. We have Business Premier. Business Premier is the highest class on board the service, and what it does offer are a wide range of all-inclusive features such as boarding guarantee, dedicated private carriage, access to the exclusive Business Premier lounges, and these Business Premier lounges are available in Brussels, Paris, and also London as well, and free access to Wi-Fi throughout the lounges. I'll take this opportunity very briefly to just touch on a previous session that we had based on the Eurostar. That would have been just a few months ago. So if you do wish to get a more in-depth look at what the Eurostar has to offer, please go back and find the recording session that we did host where we focused solely on the Eurostar, and from there you can find out a lot more detailed information about what each of the services do feature. In addition, so just going back now to our presentation over here, Business Premier offers a really generous check-in time, and because you do get a priority check-in where you can check in 10 minutes prior to departure. Of course, with Business Premier, you also get a meal and a selection of drinks served at your seat, but something that Eurostar does pride itself on is the quality of meals that they do get, inclusive of a Business Premier ticket. You get gourmet meals prepared by world-class chefs, whereas when you're traveling in Standard Premier, you still do get to enjoy quality service meals, but Business Premier brings that level up a step because of the quality of service that they do pride themselves on and highlights it for our passengers as well. There's also a choice of complimentary newspapers and magazines on board, and also at-seat power sockets for laptops as well, because this type of class of service is really catered to the business traveller and the high-end clientele as well. So those are the classes of service on board the Eurostar, and what we will be going through here and there as well is the procedure of various videos to just give us a better indication of what it's like to travel on these European high-speed trains as well. So with the Eurostar, just to recap on the different check-in times that are required, for standard class and standard premier class, you must check in at least 30 minutes prior to departure. And for business premier, passengers can also can check in at least 10 minutes prior to departure. Of course, these are the regulated times that you do need to be at the railway station in order to check in, but just to be safe, we usually recommend for passengers to be at the railway stations not 30 minutes prior to departure, but even an hour beforehand, just in case there are any lines that's going to delay them in the check-in process. If, for example, you have a Eurail pass and you wish to travel on the Eurostar and you've purchased a pass holder fare, bear in mind that the minimum check-in time required is 45 minutes prior to departure. So a little bit, it does, so take into account that the check-in requirement time is slightly longer than the other classes of service as well. So let's watch this quick video just to get a bit of an idea of what it's like to check in and travel on the Eurostar in general as well. Just bring up the video. Okay, so just some general logistics about traveling on board the Eurostar. Okay, now I won't go through this video specifically about the Eurostar and what it's like to travel on the service, just because I'm worried and concerned about the time constraints. However, like I said, this presentation is going to be available on the training library, so you're welcome to access these videos at a different time so you can watch it in your own time as well. So continuing on with the Eurostar, one of the most exciting things is the new offerings for a direct service from traveling between London to Amsterdam. So this was recently opened, set to launch on the 4th of April 2018, and furthermore, tickets had begun sale earlier this year, back on the 20th of February 2018. It's a fantastic route that we've now been able to offer to our passengers, because it now enables our passengers to travel from London to the heart of Amsterdam by train in less than 4 hours. Previously, before the direct service was being offered, the only alternative that we had was to travel by 2 different trains to get from London through to Amsterdam, meaning additional costs, extra time, and not as much convenience as the current reservation system that we have at the moment. Just a couple of notes to consider when you're traveling on the London to Amsterdam route. On the return journey, travelers do need to change trains at Brussels, where they do go through security and have their passport checked. So with the return journey, changing trains in Brussels, the connection is quite a smooth one. It is just a necessary measure that people do have to undertake, and it is temporary due to the regulations regarding passport control. So just take that into account if you have any passengers traveling Amsterdam back to London. Now, the thing to note, though, is that with the Eurostar's new direct service from London to Amsterdam, or vice versa, in the opposite direction, departures are not as frequent as a regular Eurostar departure. Normally, for example, you would have a London to Paris service operating pretty much every hour. Whereas when you're traveling from London through to Amsterdam, the service only operates at 8:31 a.m. and 17:31 a.m. on weekdays. So it's only on specific times. On the weekends, it's even more limited, particularly because on Saturdays, there's only one direct service from 8:31 and only another direct service from 17:31. So do bear that in mind when you are booking this for your customers. And of course, because the booking horizon is 6 months in advance, it's a good idea to try and plan this in advance just to avoid any disappointment if the schedule that your passengers and even the date that you want is not available. Okay, so that is it. So now I will just skip over this very quickly, particularly because it's not something that is super necessary, but just very briefly, the ABS fare means any Belgian station. So if you encounter this terminology somewhere, this is what it means. Eurostar also offers any Belgian station tickets, which means that it is valid to or from any railway station in Belgium under certain conditions. So that was the Eurostar. We'll take a quick look now at the Thalys services. So Thalys is another extremely high-speed train as well, and it's extremely popular with our passengers to book. The Thalys operates between Paris to the gems of Northern Europe, so Brussels in Belgium, Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and Cologne in Germany. Between Paris and Brussels, the train only takes 1 hour and 22 minutes and only 3 hours and 18 minutes when traveling from Paris to Amsterdam. There are 2 classes of service available on the Thalys, being first class and second class. However, bear in mind there are different fare conditions that do apply. I'll go through this in a little bit more detail too. Booking horizon for Thalys, 90 days in advance. Okay, so with the Thalys, it's a purely international service, so there are no domestic services that operate. All trains are non-smoking. They offer a completely refurbished interior and extremely spacious seating as well as reclining seats with a comfortable headrest and a footrest, as well as individual reading lights, spacious luggage storage within view, for passengers as well. So it's extremely well set up, this particular train, offering the most modern amenities for the most comfortable travel possible. Just taking a look at the route map that the Thalys does offer, it operates from Paris to Brussels and then Amsterdam, and then also travels through to Cologne and other destinations as well. So I'll go through very briefly the different Thalys fare ranges. So like I mentioned, Thalys offers first class and second class on the train. However, just bear in mind, let me just show you very quickly, there are different fare levels available for each passenger, each class of service. So in second class, you have standard mini and standard fare range. So it's non-exchangeable, non-refundable if you're booking a standard mini fare. There is complimentary Wi-Fi, and you do have a luggage limit of 2 items. Second class standard tickets are exchangeable with some fees that do apply, as well as Wi-Fi and 2 items of luggage. Comfort offers first class seating available on the train, so larger seating, more space, and exchangeable with some fees that do apply. And it is, somewhat refundable as well. Does offer complimentary Wi-Fi on board the train, and also offers 2 items of luggage as an allowance for each passenger. So in first class, you also have a premium fare. So basically with first class, you have a much more generous after-sales conditions as well. You get complimentary Wi-Fi, 2 items of luggage, at-seat fruit service, newspapers and magazines, access to lounges and taxi reservation. So you certainly get a lot more when you're traveling with a premium fare as opposed to a comfort fare as well. So with the 3 types of fares, just to recap, you have second class, first class comfort, and then first class premium as well. So of course, the biggest difference really between first class and second class is the spacing of the seat, particularly because second class offers 2 by 2 seating configuration. So you have a little bit more of a compact seat when you're traveling on the train. Whereas when you're traveling in first class, you have a 2 by 1 seating configuration instead, offering a wider and more spacious seat on board the service. Now, check-in procedure for the Thalys does apply, so you do have to make sure that you're there a minimum of 20 minutes prior to departure to go through security screenings and check-in as well. So tickets, contact and passport checks are conducted on board the train after departure. Not so much prior to departure like on the Eurostar, but it happens after departure as the train has already left. So now I will just rectify this information, particularly because this is a slightly old message here, and I will have this addition or this marking over here when I upload the PowerPoint presentation on the training drive as well. So any outdated information will be removed by the time I upload this. Okay, so very briefly, let's now turn to France. So TGV France offers, the most high-speed train, some of the most high-speed train services connecting major cities of France, as well as internationally too. So the train services travel smoothly and silently at speeds of over 300 kilometers in complete safety. They do have first class and second class coaches available on board the train, and they do afford outstanding comfort for work, rest and relaxation while you are traveling from destination to destination. The TGV service stands for Train à Grande Vitesse, which is a high-speed train in French. Now, depending on the train service, the TGV services have a varying booking horizon. It can vary between 90 to 180 days in advance, depending on the TGV train that you are booking. So some of the most popular routes that the TGVs do operate would be to travel, for example, from Paris to Lyon in under 2 hours, one of the most convenient and exciting journeys to do as well. Travels from Paris to Avignon to the south of France in under 3 hours, in about 2 hours and 40 minutes, making the perfect option for a day trip for some of your passengers if they are based in Paris. And furthermore, the TGV also travels on international routes. So there are international TGVs, international routes, that operate between Paris to Zurich on the TGV Lyria, and from Marseille to Brussels, Paris to Milan, and then also Paris to Barcelona as well. So let's take a quick look now, just all about TGV trains. Just bring up the video. Okay, so just very brief outlook on TGV services. Just click ahead. So with the TGV, and I'm talking solely about TGV domestic trains, there are two classes of service. There's second class, which offers comfort and convenience and access to the bar service car, but bear in mind no meals are included. And you also have first class. So first class offers comfortable and more spacious reclining seats with generous legroom. There are power sockets available for laptops or mobile phones, and also there is the availability for taxi reservation on board with with the train manager on specific TGV routes as well. So basically what that means, if you have any passengers traveling on the TGV, their route may be eligible, and of course, if they're traveling in first class, their route may be eligible to have a complimentary taxi reservation to be booked by the train manager. So upon their arrival at their destination, there's a taxi that's been pre-reserved, ready and waiting for them at the railway station to take them to their intended next destination. So just bear in mind, with TGV domestic services, there are no meals included at all. However, meals can be purchased on board the train at the time of travel as well. In the video, you might have heard that there are 3 different classes of service on the TGV, which is partly true. The TGV Lyria, which operates between France and Switzerland, has 3 different classes, but it is really the only service that has the 3 classes offered on board the train, being from business premium, first class, and then second class as well. But generally, across the board, for all TGV train services, with the exception of the TGV Lyria, they will generally offer only first class and second class on the train. Okay, so just going to continue on from there. Okay, so let's just quickly now turn from France to Spain. So now with Spain, the premium high-speed services that Spain offers are operated by the rail carrier Renfe, which most of us may have heard of as if you have been booking trains for quite some time now. Now the AVE trains are the trains that operate under the Renfe umbrella. AVE services offer high-speed train services connecting to major cities of Spain. The trains are the most modern of all European high-speed trains and also reach speeds of up to 300 kilometers an hour. And just a little bit of a fun fact for you, the AVE services stand for Alta Velocidad Española, which means high-speed train in, oh, let me correct this, not in French, but in Spanish. Now, out of all of the trains that travel or high-speed services that we can book, it does have quite a narrow booking horizon, being 60 days in advance. So just bear that in mind that Spanish trains are only 2 months in advance that we can book the train. Okay. Some of the most popular routes that the AVE train service is between, now I've just marked here in numbers, between the most popular services that we do get inquiries for. So number 1 would be from Madrid to Barcelona at 2 hours and 38 minutes. The second most popular route that the AVE services do operate and that we do make bookings for would be Madrid to Seville at 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then from Madrid to Cordoba in 1 hour and 44 minutes. So they're extremely high speed, extremely efficient, and really quite comfortable and modern facilities available on board. So with the AVE services, there are 3 classes of service available on board, starting with Turista, offering economic seating, excuse me, economic seating, comfortable and modern amenities on board the train, Turista Plus, and then Preferente. So Turista, just in the yellow seating that I'm highlighting my cursor over here, is considered as second class. Turista Plus and Preferente would be considered as first class. When you're traveling in first class on board Spanish trains, you do also get an inclusive meal, with your ticket. However, it will be dependent at, the time of travel as well. So if you're traveling in the morning, then of course you would get a breakfast included. But then in the evenings, if your train is traveling at that time, then it would be a complimentary dinner on board the train and an inclusive meal as well. So moving on from Spain, we'll now continue with Italian train services. Italy is a little bit unique in comparison to other train services in that they have 2 different high-speed trains that operate. Rather than, so for example, in France you have just the TGV, in Spain you have the AVE services, and in Italy you have 2. You have Trenitalia high-speed trains and then also NTV Italo services. And because there are 2 different services, bear in mind that they're actually 2 completely separate companies that are that do not operate in conjunction with one another. So let's go through an overview of each of the services. We'll start first with the Italo trains. Italo trains. Okay, so I'm not sure if everyone caught that last little section of the video, but bear in mind that rail passes are not accepted on the Italo trains. Now, just before I continue on with the next video, can I just check with everyone, and if someone can just respond in the chat box, if you can hear the video audio? I haven't heard any other feedback, but I just want to be sure that all of the audio is being transmitted effectively from the video to the training session as well. But yes, so I will continue on, and if you can't hear the audio, but you can still hear me, that's fine. I'll be uploading the YouTube links for each of these videos, and these are embedded in the presentation here as well. Okay. Perfect, no problem. Thanks so much for the feedback. I think some people can hear the video, some people find it a little unclear, and some people can't hear it at all. So I'll continue on as per usual, but if you can't hear the audio, I do apologize about that. I think it's just a couple of audio issues. But for those who can, that's fine. And like I said, you can always watch these videos after the training session has been completed when I upload the presentation to the training library on MyRail Europe. So those are the Italo trains. Now let's look at the Trenitalia trains. Completely different company, and let me just go back and get the video prepared for you. Okay, so the biggest difference between the Trenitalia services and the Italo services, I think I'm pronouncing it properly now, is that the Italo services do not recognize URL passes, they don't accept them at all, whereas with Trenitalia services, you can purchase seat reservations, pass holder fares with, for Trenitalia journeys as well. So I've put a comparison between the two different, rail operators. So Trenitalia has the following ticketing options available when you're booking these through Euronet. So you can book this as PAH or E2 paper. Pass holder fares are available, so you can use your rail pass in conjunction with this train. Apologies, I'm just going through each one. Sorry, I just had to put somebody on mute, but of course we will discuss that later, that's okay. So it does have the largest network of trains in Italy, and it does have compulsory seat reservations. So between the two, Trenitalia services are, the older, not necessarily the older, but the more established between the two operators, particularly because it's been operating for a longer time than Italo. Trenitalia's booking horizon can be booked at 120 days in advance, so quite a generous booking horizon. Now looking at the Italo services, just a little bit of a fun fact for you, the Italo services are so new that they only just started operating their first service back in 2011, which is quite new for a lot of European high-speed trains. Whereas in comparison, the Trenitalia services, like I said, they've been operating for much longer than the Italo services. The biggest difference, of course, is that you do not get any pass holder fares only with the Italo services, and you can only purchase standalone point-to-point tickets. They do only offer PAH tickets when you're booking these through Euronet. However, all classes of service do have free Wi-Fi available on board the train, luxury leather seats, and they do put quite a strong highlight on customer service on board this train because they do have staff that are fluent in English and are trained at the NTV Hospitality School. And furthermore, finally, the booking horizon for this service is bookable 5 months in advance. So just continuing on very, very quickly here. Another just quick tip to mention to your passengers when you are booking is, and this is just Italy related, if you are planning to have passengers that do travel to Venice, do ensure that you check which railway station they do require, whether or not they wish to travel to Venice Santa Lucia or Venice Mestre. So in Venice, there are 2 train stations. Santa Lucia is located on the northwest bank of the Grand Canal, where all of the major, tourist locations are, and it is the main station for, other major locations like St. Mark's Square and all, canals and whatnot. Venice Mestre, however, is located on the mainland instead. It is about 10 minutes away from Santa Lucia. However, always do check with your clients which station is going to be the best for them, okay? So that was just a very general overview of Italy by rail, but now we turn to Austria. So Austria's premier high-speed service are railjet trains. I think out of all of the European high-speed trains, the railjet is probably one of my favorites, particularly because of its speed, efficiency, and onboard service as well. It is a premium high-speed service, but it also offers domestic travel within Austria, as well as international travel to Switzerland, Germany, Hungary, and the Czech Republic as well. So for railjet services, seat reservations are optional for domestic Austria, but they are compulsory for other railjet services. So with the railjet, I haven't mentioned it in this tile over here, but the booking horizon for railjet services is 90 days in advance. So let's take a quick look at overseas services. And you'll see why they are so popular, particularly because they're so modern. Okay, now I'll just close this. Okay, but you can certainly see, from the very, very dramatic video. However, it does show a really, really great overview of what it's like to travel on the railjet services, and also OBB services in general, which is the main carrier for Austrian railways as well. So I'll just go through the different classes of service for the railjet trains. Just bear in mind that in the video you might have seen it presented that there were 3 classes of service on the on the railjet trains. Just bear in mind that because with those 3 classes you have business, first and second class on the train. Just a little side note, with business class, it's not actually possible to book these through Euronet, so if you have passengers who do wish to travel on that service, they do have to purchase the tickets locally. Nevertheless, I traveled in first class when I was on the railjet trains, and it's certainly one of the most modern and efficient services that I'd ever experienced on a train in my life, which was fantastic. So what first class offers on railjet trains is at-seat service for meals and beverages, also extremely modern and large reclining seats, individually adjustable leather seats with comfortable legroom, and then also electrical outlets at every seat. They do also offer an additional cabin service where you can have meals which are purchasable via a trolley service as well. So the image that's currently represented in front of you over here is one of the most accurate representations of the railjet services, because when I traveled on the train, it looked exactly like this: comfortable, modern, clean and extremely efficient to travel on as well. Looking at second class for Railjet trains, you still get the same modern seats, but a more compact and more economical choice for your passengers. They offer quite generous luggage racks, one power outlet per double seat, and then also various bicycle stands, and even a children's cinema if you have families traveling on the train. It also has a restaurant car with a selection of set meals. However, if you're traveling in second class, just another note that meals are always at an additional cost. So just to quickly answer one of the trainees' questions while I'm on it, someone did ask if Wi-Fi is available on Railjet trains, and I can confirm that yes, they certainly are on both classes of service. And then lastly, the last train that we're going to look at are the ICE trains, operated in Germany and beyond. So Germany's ICE high-speed trains are the fastest way to travel not only in Germany, but to Switzerland and Austria and the Netherlands, traveling at over 300 kilometers an hour. So it offers free Wi-Fi in both first and second class, and some first class coaches even feature individual video screens at the seat. Reservations aren't compulsory, but they're highly recommended. And this applies to both domestic services as well as international services too. Okay, now looking at the different classes of service on the ICE trains, Wi-Fi is available on board the entire train. So first class passengers also have access to first class lounges in selected train stations. They even have quiet zones available and even a trolley service for food and beverages. So the ICE trains don't have meals included, even if you are traveling in first class, just to reconfirm, but you can purchase meals on board the train, but with the trolley service too. And then finally, second class is also available on the ICE trains, offering quite compact, economic, comfortable seating with lockers available in the vestibules for the carriage, and then also trolley food service as well. So you can see that there is quite a bit of a similarity between the seating type between second class and first class, just flicking through. So in reality, the biggest difference in terms of seating when you're traveling on the ICE trains is that you do get just a smaller seat, and it's certainly still quite comfortable to travel on too. Now the last little video that I'll just go through will be just a view of the interiors of the ICE services operated in Germany too. You can really get a feel of how modern and comfortable these trains are. So ICE services, just to reiterate, they operate in Germany as well as Switzerland, Austria, Netherlands, and beyond as well. And for surprises, the ICE trains, 90 days in advance. Okay. So I guess in summary, with now just going back to our overview of European high-speed trains, there's certainly ones to certainly recommend to your customers to book, particularly because of the convenience of travel, as well as how iconic some of these trains are. There's certainly a much better alternative, you know, to flying because of the convenience of traveling from city centre to city centre, and with the expansion of the services now offering more direct trains and more frequent services. But that ends our session on a European high-speed trains overview. Although each of the overview did have, you know, quite a very brief look at each of the trains and what they feature, again, all of these trains have been focused on in individual training sessions that we've done throughout the year, and still more to come as well. So, of course, if you do have any further questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat box now, and we'll go through a question and answer session, because I did get a couple of questions during the session. But to those of you who are leaving us now, thank you so much for joining. And again, I'll be uploading this presentation on the training library for everyone else to access at a later stage. And this session is also being recorded, as well as the Q&A session too. So let's get started with our questions. So let's go through the chat box. We do have a couple of questions here, which is great. Let me just have a quick look. Now we did have a few questions to how to get access to the training library. For those of you, if you do require access to the training library, this is available, the training library is available in MyRail Europe. So I'll just quickly show you how to access that. Bear with me and I will log in myself, and I'll show you where you can get access. And if you need a little bit of a refresher on how to use MyRail Europe, we did have a training session back in late June, I think it was on June the 20th, where we went through a MyRail Europe overview on how to navigate the portal to find more information, if I can multitask properly and talk at the same time. Let me just bring up the browser. So everyone should have a MyRail Europe account, and if you don't have one, you can certainly create one as well. And let me just show you where to find the training library. So under the different tabs of MyRail Europe, you can find libraries, and let me just continue on from there. And under My Libraries, there's another page which leads you to the training section. So the training library over here is what we upload and where we upload all of our resources. So our PowerPoint presentations that we go through during the training sessions, as well as links to different training recordings that have been done throughout the year as well. So for example, the latest recording document has gone up, the Recordings to Rail Europe online training sessions. So this was just published about 8 minutes ago. So I'll just bring this up just so I can show everyone how to access it if they do want to find more information about each of these trains through previous training sessions and that we've recorded as well. So what you can do is you can download the original document, or you can download a PDF. I find it easier and faster to download a PDF. And then from there, it should download the document. And there are a list of different training presentations that we've already gone through during the year. And by clicking here, it will actually give you access to downloading the Rail Europe online training recording that was conducted for that topic. So if you want to know more about Trenitalia, we have a recording here, even a session on Deutsche Bahn, which is in conjunction with the ICE trains that we had a look at, and even an additional ATOC presentation, overnight trains, straight train journeys, and more dedicated training sessions from there. So do feel free to use this online training document so that you can download the previous training recordings if you've missed out on any, or you just need a recap. So there was another question, so that answers your question on how to get access to the training library. So do create a MyRail Europe account, or so that you can access these really important informations as well. Let me just have a look. So there's a question here from Avi. Thank you so much for sending this through. If we purchase a rail pass, are the reservations compulsory on these high-speed trains, or is it complimentary? Really good question, but if you do have a rail pass, Seat reservations and pass holder fares are always an additional cost to the rail pass. They are not complimentary. And the cost of the seat reservations and pass holder fares do vary depending on the train that you are booking on. I know that some of the most, the most cost-effective pass holder fares would be if you were to be purchasing pass holder fares or seat reservations for ICE and Railjet trains. They usually remain roughly about the same price. But then they can vary if you're traveling or buying a seat reservation for Eurostar, Trenitalia, and other services. And since we're talking about seat reservations with Eurail passes, just another reminder that NTV Italo trains do not recognize the Eurail pass, so you do need to purchase a completely standalone point-to-point ticket with that train as well. And I think that was it in terms of the questions. I think there was a comment in the chat box mentioning that you don't have access to booking the NTV trains. It may be different depending on where you are as well. But generally, when booking through Euronet, there are different accesses for different trains that each person here at the training session can book. So I know that does sound quite vague, but of course, if you have, that ends our Q&A session, but if you do have any additional questions that need answering after the training session has ended, please feel free to email us at onlinetraining@raileurope.com. That's onlinetraining@raileurope.com. Which is the same email address that you are receiving all of the invites for as well. And from there, we'll be able to assist with your questions. Are there any last questions before we end the recording and the training session? Okay, you're welcome to all of those who answered the question, Nov. I hope that it helped a little bit. But I don't think that there are any more questions that people are asking, so I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you again for those who are joining. Once again, thanks so much for your ongoing support of Rail Europe, and we will chat to each other again next week. Thank you.